Here's the creme de la creme of out-of-touch fandom comments about a character that you're not supposed to relate to. One of the first comments on the Scott Reynolds, Michael C. Hall, and Jack Alcott wrap-up podcast episode that they did on Dexter New Blood's finale, talking about how Dexter was killed by Harrison, kind of like, obviously the ending of the show. Why bring the show back if you're not going to kill Dexter? A lot of people found out yesterday that Dexter's not the good guy. Or a couple days ago now, whenever you see this. That Dexter's not the good guy of the story. Here we go. This comment. just look at that real quick. I'm gonna read this for you. I need to give my credentials before I say this. I'm what you'd call a Dexter fan. I've seen the series all the way through. Every year since it started. When season 2 came out, I'd watch season 1 leading up to it. When season 3 came out, I'd watch 1 and 2 leading up, and so on. When the series ended, I rewatched the entire series every September, and I've not missed it once. This is the worst episode of Dexter that has ever been made. Ending aside, the entire final episode was spent painting our hero, the man we've dedicated 106 episodes to, as this absolute villain. He's in custody for 80% of the episode, only to be killed in the end? It's absurd. The roundabout logic of the fact that he's killed innocent people, so he's the worst? Sure, it's sad because the ending has ruined the other 9 solid episodes. The good thing about it, future rewatches will not include Dexter New Blood. At least the regular series had an ending which made sense. Here's another comment right below that. You wanted us, even let us, to root for an amiable serial killer for 9 years, and then basically tell us we were stupid to root for him because he's evil? I just hated it. I'm sorry. Too rushed. It took 6 years to turn Walter White into an ogre. No, the plot took place in like a year and a half. It didn't and 3 episodes in, he started killing people for drugs. My God, you think 15 minutes in a jail cell turned us against Dexter? No. He's made mistakes before. Season 5, episode 1 in parentheses. Just to remind you, Dexter fans, after Rita is killed by the Trinity Killer and Dexter has to deal with mourning this, he goes off on his boat to some fucking bar and then just beats to death some random redneck with a claw hammer. Like, just brutally beats to death some random dude for no fucking reason and then leaves. But that was the peak of Dexter. We didn't like him killing Logan. We don't any of us think he would have. But to have that flip his son into such hatred in a flash? No! That's the comment. I want to read more comments dramatically. This is a fun format.
This is ridiculous.
Dude, people really think Dexter's like the hero of his story.
People looked up to him like a role model, it sounds like.
Here's another one. This one has 115 likes, and it's closer to the top of these 400 comments, because this podcast had just dropped. So, Dexter dying makes it feel like a best friend of mine died. I know that sounds crazy, but those who watch understand. The bond to this character is unlike any other I've ever experienced. Such a special show. The best show ever made, honestly. Thank you, Michael.
Seek help.
You can literally feel the show going off the rails after Logan's kill. I'm beyond disappointed. So, that's the point. That's thematically the purpose of the Logan kill. Trapped in a corner, he kills an innocent person, and then he's in like a frenzied panic that leads to his death. That's how Light died. That's how Walter White died. You can't have this anti-hero, like, supervillain character. I barely even consider these people anti-heroes. Light Yagami's a mass murderer. Walter White is a mass murderer at this point. Well, maybe a spree killer would be his qualification.
He set up some murders too.
Yeah, like he's just a serial killer. Yeah, and Dexter's a serial killer. Serial killers are bad. Serial killers are bad. Serial killing, bad. It's not even subtext. Here's the text. Serial killing is bad. That's why everybody's mad when Batman kill somebody. Or like why Spider-Man and the new Spider-Man had to like return them all home and help them first. Because killing people is bad. It's like the writers buckled to the pressure of romanticizing a serial killer. Dex was written as the hero of the series, but he was given a villain's ending. The show was at odds with itself because the writers didn't know what story they were telling. The idea of a righteous serial killer was so intriguing it seduced a nation. The writers were so desperate to make us dislike Dex at the end that they forced him to kill Logan when it made zero sense. Dex was so chill about being arrested, and there never seemed to be an adequate escalation of stakes to explain this action. Pics of needle marks, lol, was the conclusive, inescapable evidence that brought down Dex? Let's forget that Dex used M99 in season 1, not ketamine, and that his injection technique wouldn't leave those marks. It still doesn't fit. I was fine with Dexter being killed by Harrison. That's a fine plot point. The writers failed at getting us there successfully. I feel bad for the actors because they delivered such a stellar performance. Again, the buck stops with the writers, just like you did with season 8. Showtime, hire writers who know how to boldly stick with a theme and won't buckle under pressure. Dude, when the show started in season 1, Clyde Phillips, the guy who came back and finished the show for you, he had always planned on having Dexter getting the lethal injection at the end of the series. Dexter was always going to die. They knew what they were doing. The books that this show is based on, Darkly Dreaming Dexter and forward, knew Dexter was going to die. The last book is called Dexter is Dead.
And he dies.
Because he's the bad guy. Because he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Because he's the bad guy. Dexter used M99 and not ketamine in Miami. So, this scene right here shows her looking up ketamine and Miami Metro cases. And on like a Google search result page, there's a list of things that pop up, right? And towards the top is like this in-universe theory website for true crime. And it's like a list of drugs that were found in the Bay Harbor Butcher case, right? And so I know that none of you understand how SEO works, and I know that's why you're freaking out about this fucking plot point, but it is a plot point, retards. On the list of things is M99 and ketamine. On a list of like drugs. That like the website is something like, oh, it's like a theory website where people are throwing out ideas. So ketamine brings up in the search results, even though the page is talking about how the Bay Harbor Butcher used M99. This new series is not saying that he used ketamine the whole time. Dexter took ketamine from a nearby like veterinarian or whatever a couple episodes ago, so Angela is interested in the ketamine aspect of it and looking into Dexter Morgan's time at Miami Metro because he lied about his name being Jim Lindsay. These are the reasons that she's like, oh, he's the Bay Harbor Butcher. It's not because she has proof, it's because they're dating. It's because she's been fucking the guy. And like, she knows how he does his little chin scratches and shit. That's one of the evidences that she has against him. There's like this heat-seeking camera that's being used out in the snow, and it's one of the ways Dexter gets away with his early kill on the show for longer, is that like it doesn't show faces, just like kind of heat signatures. But when Angela brings him back in and is like, well, this guy has the same rifle as you, and Dexter's like, yeah, I sell a lot of this rifle. Like, I'm the guy who sells the rifle at the store. Of course I have that rifle. And she's like, yeah, well, and she like hits play, and like the guy on the thing does like a thing while walking, just like a little like a Dexter tick. Yeah, and she goes, "That's the thing you do, Jim." And it's like that's why he starts to freak out and has to start to frenzy. It's not because she has like conclusive evidence. It's because she knows he's the Bay Harbor Butcher. There is a difference here. I know you fucking incels don't get it. That must be it. People who have a parasocial relationship with Michael C. Hall's serial killer character don't understand relationships. Fucking color me shocked. God damn it, man. It's like the show was fine, but I think that this ending and the reaction to it is going to be the gift that keeps on giving, because people just don't seem to get that Dexter's not their friend. He's not a hero. He's a bad guy. He's constantly reminded he's a bad guy. And the 3 episodes of this season where like he's slowly justifying himself that what he's doing is actually good and that he's saving Harrison or that he's helping people by killing that drug dealer. You're supposed to think that he is slipping and that he is no longer a good guy and then he's coming up with like thin reasons to murder people. Who the fuck cares about selling psychedelics? Dexter kills a guy for selling some party drugs that made Harrison sick. And Dexter just like murders the dude. I think that the Dexter audience currently seems like the biggest I missed the point audience next to BoJack Horseman, Breaking Bad, and I think everyone gets the point of Death Note, right? Like they all know that Light's bad.
What about Rick and Morty?
Again, I fucking hope you all understand that Rick's not the good guy. Oh man. You have to have a really high IQ to understand that Rick Sanchez is not the good guy.